Public school or homeschool? What?
No school.
Or no school.
Oh, I win.
I choose this no school.
I mean,
so there's so much to like unpack with this, and my brain is always like, I don't know.
Let's
I'm
start
not
with,
adamant.
we don't know what we're going to do for our kids. Like, we've gone back and forth between, I mean, it's more like online private than homeschool.
We don't know what we're doing for our kids every year, pretty much. We take it, which I think is a healthy way of looking at it. We take it 1 year at a time because we're willing to adjust.
And even each kid individually this time are kind of looking at it separately.
Yes.
So
I worry that changing too much is a bad thing, but I don't know. We just take it a year at a time and a kid at a time.
And every kid's so different and so interesting that in our family it's kind of like some kids I'd be like, absolutely, I think it's way better to go to public school, and then some kids I'm like, this kid might need homeschool.
You know, I can't focus on this conversation anymore until Steve gets the black thing out of his teeth. Down. Right.
Is it on the top or the bottom?
Bottom.
Okay. Well, you're pointing up here earlier.
It's gone like this, and between the teeth. Right there. One up. No, it's still there. Yeah. It's going to be there for the rest of the podcast. Jared, why do you have that look on your face? Can you see it from the cameras?
No, I can't see anything, but just this
Good.
conversation.
Can you guys see it?
Here?
Nope. It's right one over. That one, in between those two. It's like a seed. God! So,
Now that I have no self-confidence, that's why I need to be homeschooled.
if I would have left it there
That does not
and
mean-
told you after, that was actually very bad, but you would have been like, why didn't you tell me I had something in my teeth an hour ago?
I
And
would
we're not going to ignore what Steve said. So, Steven thrives on public school, enjoyed public school. When we did the online private school, we've never done
straight up homeschool.
homeschool
Yeah.
like with me being the teacher, because that's scary.
Well, why not me?
Who would do the teaching?
I would.
I would, because Steve can't sit in one place for longer than 2 seconds, so he'd be like, yeah, I'll help you do that. Where did Steve go?
I
He's
would
gone.
thrive in homeschool in the regard of no one holding me accountable and telling me I'm not doing anything. And so when
I just don't think every day being like, I'm going to teach and do this, he wouldn't be able to do it. That's why I know that responsibility is mine to bear.
And I think that's fair.
And not his.
There was a sarcastic comment, obviously, that I would not be a homeschool teacher or a regular teacher.
He just wouldn't be able to handle it.
What kind of kids do you think thrive on homeschool versus not, though?
So I feel like public school works perfectly for most children. Like, they kind of fit the mold. I feel like there's several outliers of kids that learn differently, and the proven method of public school that works for the majority of kids, it just kind of doesn't work for them. They don't learn that way. So I would say more hands-on visual learners, people that have harder time processing information being told to them, where they have to learn it a few different ways before they grasp it. It's harder for them because there's just not the time or the resources to teach them that way.
I also think a lot of, like, the kids that fit the regular mold, though, would probably thrive in homeschool.
They would
It's
thrive
probably
in homeschool.
similar where, like, there's, like, this overlap, and then on each end, there's a small number that would, like, I cannot do homeschool. Like,
Yeah.
Steven struggled with that section of it.
Yeah. He also didn't do, like, homeschool.
True.
So it's hard.
It might be different if we were, like, sitting down and teaching.
He was just sitting in a Zoom classroom. He was, like, in a public school setting, kind of, listening
Online.
to a teacher online, but held more accountable on getting his own work done.
So when I was a kid, if you were homeschooled, it meant you were weird.
Yep.
It's
same.
pretty much the only scenario that you were homeschooled. Is
Same.
that what you're kind of saying, is the weirdos need to be homeschooled?
No. I'm saying...
I'm just clarifying.
I'm saying the kids that actually struggle
No, I
with
know.
the being in a classroom
Didn't it
with
used to be that way, though?
29
Like, it
kids.
used to be like, hey, that
It
person
used to be a
who-
taboo.
You
Like, it used to
basically
be-
like it was like you were a Bigfoot walking around.
and
like
you're not social if you're homeschooled.
But
You're
the
not-
thing is that may have just been our perception of them, but they probably had this really cool like upbringing. Maybe they had their group because people do like co-ops now.
I don't know that I
and-
actually knew a homeschooled person. I just knew the
Yeah.
caricature of
I don't
homeschooled
know.
people.
Yeah,
It
I'm
has
kinda the
become
same.
there was way less.
Yeah,
It
for
has
sure.
become way more of a common thing. So I would say now it's not looked upon
No
as that
stigma.
because
I
now
heard something
it's
on
like,
the news that it was like they're doing like a news article here in Utah at least about like because they're having huge percentage of doing homeschool.
Yeah.
But I also look at the homeschool thing, not the people that, at least now the way I look at it is not only the people that need more help, but also sometimes like I've seen some homeschool kids now that can finish their high school way sooner too.
Yeah, I've
Yes.
seen that too.
So it's like also kids that are way smart. That
Steven would have done that. I feel
sometimes like you're sitting in the
Taylor
same
might have
grade
too.
for a long time,
Taylor.
learning things that you've already mastered, where you can move on and go to the next level and
Yeah.
keep going.
I
So
feel
I mean, I
like
can see that
a
too.
lot of public school, and you'll get people that are like really like have strong opinions about this, but like I feel like a lot of public school is babysitting. There's a lot of time that
Busy
you're there
work.
for the 6 hours that maybe the knowledge base where you're getting the information could be cut in half, and that's where I think people see the appeal of homeschool because it's like you can cut that stuff in half, and then you having solid learning experiences with a smaller group of people.
And I think there was a
less
study
time.
too of like kids can only like
Retain,
retain a certain amount of hours or
Probably.
something.
like you can
of
fit it. You
information.
can fit it in 3 hours a day, like 4 days a week,
Mm-hmm.
and you could at the same pace as public school. But your kids are just gone in that setting. They're with their peers. They're doing other things, right? They're having their lunch with their peers. They're having their
They're
extra
away from
classes.
their parents too, which is nice for the parents to be able to work or to
Yes.
just have a break sometimes. I mean, that's might sound terrible, I guess, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of benefits to public
I
school.
think the
in that
social
regard.
aspects are really huge with public school.
Yeah, it's really nice to like have people call you fat and tell you that you're ugly and look stupid.
So there's also that. So you have the good social for some kids that thrive on that, and then there's the bad stuff that comes with social, which we've had both in our family.
Yeah.
Like it just depends on the situation, the kid, and the age. And so there's also that where you
We
get
have some
to deal
kids
with.
who want that social aspect more than they want the education. So they're like, we're
Yes.
going to public school because I want to be around people, I want to have friends, and I want to do this thing. Well, not that you can't have friends in homeschool, right? But like that.
No.
That's what their like focus is. They're like, no, I want that. And then there's the other kids who are like, I hate that. And we have both in our family going
Yeah.
to the same schools even, and it's just like,
Yes. Yeah, and that's just why we look at it as an individual basis too. Like if we were to homeschool, it would not be all of our kids.
no,
It
just the ones that want to travel with us.
I think one of my gripes is
benefit
like
of homeschool.
the homework. I don't know. What are your guys'
Oh,
I
thoughts on homework?
hate homework.
I think
Homework-
it needs to be done away with. for
Homework
sure.
is the worst. When my kids get a teacher that doesn't do homework, it's like a breath
even for
of
the
fresh
kids.
air.
Like I feel like they enjoy the class better. They focus more, and it's
Yeah.
more.
I mean, I think back to when I would
Interactive.
like go to work and come home just from like a job as an adult, and I get like a phone call from work. It would like irritate me because it's like now I'm doing this crap at home. I wanted a break. I want to relax a little bit. I want to hang out with my family or friends or whatever. And then you're at school. It's the same thing. You're there for 6 hours. Like that's enough for a kid, and to not have to come home and be like, well, now you have 45 minutes of homework for each
Exactly.
class.
And then they have a sport, and then they still have, and then they have to go to bed to have enough time. Like
Well,
I look at that,
feel
they have like
that is
30 minutes to an
teaching,
hour
like,
of family.
Not teaching, but it's cultivating a little bit of anxiety even at a young age where it's
Yeah.
like I got to do this homework. I feel like in elementary school there should be no homework at all.
I agree with
I
that.
feel like the junior high and high school levels, they have in our area, they have long classes. They have them split up into 2 days.
We don't see a whole lot of homework.
And so they have like a period for like 90 minutes. And I think
Yeah, if they
it's
do, like, a
so
study
that
hall
they
type
can
of thing,
do their
yeah.
homework. And if our kids have homework, it's probably because they didn't take advantage of that time. That's their consequence
Yeah.
for
And
Even
there's-
apart from that, I would say almost like if you do a project based would be better too. It's like
Longer
because that's
time
if you're
spending.
looking at more like homework, what it's good for, teach you to like do projects in the corporate world or whatever, like in the future maybe, but like projects aren't just a one day thing too.
Yeah.
It's like you got a month to kind of do this project.
Can you
with your
imagine being a
peers and
teacher
stuff.
though? Like think about having 45
They
butt heads
awful.
in your class, and you're trying to like figure out how to teach 6 of them that care, and then the rest of them you're trying to like just make them survive school.
Awful. Teachers,
You deserve
Are-
a medal for
yeah.
real.
like, yeah.
One thing
Unless
I
you're a
heard
crappy
too is
teacher.
that at least like
Because that exists too,
It does.
and you run
in
into that's
every
another problem with
profession.
homeschool versus public school. I'd say.
But also with
Yeah.
homework, so I was at some friend's house and their daughter said that she was kind of finishing up all of her assignments that she had because I guess a lot of the teachers now accept late work at the
yeah,
all 100% late work. So they wait until the very end, and it's like that's horrible for the teacher, but it's also teaching bad things for the kids of procrastination and stuff like that. And so it's like
yeah.
I don't
it's
see the
complicated.
good part about
Anyways.
homework in a lot of like in any way.
I think
really,
homework
but
is
I
a
don't know.
struggle. Like I don't like it. I don't think you learn a whole lot from it because you're at home. Usually you're just. But there's certain things too. Like I mean, you can't be like read this whole book in class and then
The
do this
problem
book
is that
report
they're
on it. I mean,
trying to say like cultivate these skills like the timed reading and the stuff like that because they didn't get to it in class. On an individual basis, do it at home on an individual basis. But I feel like why not do that in your 3 hours of homeschool when your kid's at home? Get that. I feel like homeschooling, you have more time, free time with your kids.
Yeah.
If you wanted that, you can get it if you're on the ball, right? And you get it done. Your kid can get it done in 3 hours. If you wanted to wake up and get it all done, you could also choose, depending on how your kid is, to do it in the evenings. If you're like, this kid does better at this time, and you can break it up
Yeah.
and do it when they're most productive and get it done in a shorter period of time.
I feel like I used to be anti-homeschool. Now I'm like 100% pro homeschool minus the having to do it.
Yeah.
So
The thing
that-
for the
He's
parents is
so I'm
pro-homeschool.
what's
100% public school also.
He's
For the parents, it's
pro-homeschool
really hard.
if
Yeah.
somebody else does
Because
it.
it's like maybe it is good for the kids, but I do think there's benefits to like being outside of the home and stuff. I enjoyed public school personally. Like I didn't
Yeah.
have a bad experience, I would say, but the idea of like you're like restricted all the time sounds awful as a parent. Like, hey man, it'd be nice if I could like have my kids to go do X, Y, Z, but I would have a really hard time like teaching my kids, even if I was good at like not wanting to like being like I gotta go. I worry about my ability to pass on information to someone else.
I think
But I guess maybe
If
I'm
you sit
better than
there
the
and
teachers
you-
too.
that's what
sometimes.
I'm saying.
Oh, she's taking shots at teachers.
all I'm saying though is that you can
Some
have a
teachers,
really
again.
great teacher that has a passion for it, but they also just
Have
went to
45
school,
kids in the class.
have a bachelor's degree, master's degree, and learned, to teach children and to deal. But you're also a parent,
Yeah.
and you have to teach your kids other things. And
They have 45 kids or whatever in those classes.
I know
40 kids.
it's
like,
really
there's
hard to get.
No way. I can't
to
teach our
every-
6 kids at the same time. If you were like, put
No.
them all 6 here and let's make sure they all learn this one thing,
It's really hard.
I'd have to be like out of my mind good to do that. So
but
these
even
guys
then,
are struggling.
even then, you could get to those 6 more information than
Oh, yes,
you
'cause
can
you're still-
to the 30.
You're just stretching
kids
the
in your
teachers to them.
class.
Like I guess if a school had 6 kids in each class, then it'd be like amazing. Probably.
We have some kids that struggle that they're in there, and if they're sitting next to someone talking, they're not hearing what's going on at all. It's
No.
like, what are you saying?
And we have kids who are terrified of talking to a teacher, which is not. They need to learn that skill, but at the same time, they're just sitting there not learning.
Are they just getting left behind? Of us trying to teach them that skill by go to
Not if
public
George
school
Bush
and learn
hasn't
that
made it.
skill, are you just getting left behind? Yeah.
No child left behind.
What about the deschooling? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
What's your thoughts on the deschooling versus homeschooling? Like,
So
is that a
there's-
form
there's-
of homeschool
There's
or what?
people that do.
You deschool to get ready for homeschool, right?
There's some people that will do like homeschooling where they're like, we're doing school at home.
Yes.
So it's, guess what? We're going to sit down at this desk. We're going to do math now. Open your book. I'm going to teach you this. Let me write on this thing. Okay, lunchtime, recess time,
They'll
that's
still like do a less amount of time, but they still
yeah,
do
and they're
it
doing it
structured
that's
like school.
different. Deschooling people believe in taking apart and away everything that has to do with public school because
That's not how you're
it's
supposed to
getting
learn.
it out
We're
of
gonna
your
learn
head.
this way.
If we're not doing that, we're gonna learn a different way, and so their different way of
So
learning.
they're not doing just like the regular math or the regular. They'll do a little bit of stuff,
They may, but it's more like, okay, come out to the garden. Everyone sit here. We're gonna be planting these
We've got
vegetables.
8 cherries.
Did you
and
know
whatever.
how? Did you know how tomatoes grow? And it's like they do this, they do that. Grab that leaf, put that here, do that. Okay, we're gonna go play on the playground. Did you know when you slide down the slide that it does? And teaching like by experiences and talking and going places, that's deschooling because you're not sit down at this table, sit down at this thing. Let's teach you like you did at public school.
And who teaches the parents these things?
And isn't this all pointless though? Because we're all gonna get chips in our head and just download information.
I'm waiting for that day.
Is that where this conversation ends right now? 'Cause
I think that's where it starts.
I just solved world education. Elon Musk is the
there
answer.
is a lot to learning, like Googling and like just figuring out stuff, like not being afraid of being like,
'Cause if you
I
can
don't
put
know
stuff
what
into
that
Google
is.
and get information, that's good.
Have you guys ever watched Storybots?
No.
That's actually I like Storybots.
Oh my gosh, is this a little kid show?
It is a little kid show,
Oh,
but
get
they
outta
like
here.
talk about like why is the sky blue? They talk about scientific and it's
Yeah, the
like,
sky's blue because that's the color of the sky.
One real quick before
go watch
we
the
end
Storybots
this
episode.
conversation
You'll find out.
Elon Musk.
is one benefit of homeschooling is you can find something that your kid is passionate about and go with that.
True.
I read about a family that had like multiple children and all their children were homeschooled. So a large family, and the majority of them, I'm thinking all of them, had gotten a college degree
In something.
in something before their age of college, right?
Yeah.
They were getting degrees.
See, it's
Yeah.
that type of stuff that
At a
interests
very
me
young
in the ways
age.
I'm like,
But
That could be-
it was because and they were degrees in like medieval history or like like but it
Yeah.
was a specific thing that they were passionate about, and so they went with that and they honed in their skill of like, I'm really obsessed with space, so I'm going to take on as much curriculum about space as possible. I'm gonna do the English. I'm gonna do
But focusing on what you're
see
good at.
that's the main thing because
but
like
I'm hyper focused.
you want to be able
space.
to be well rounded in the other areas as well,
Yes.
but not.
See, but that's the benefit of the public school too, though, is it can like balance that out. There's a board of directors watching and making sure like, hey, every kid's getting a certain amount. You have to do certain things, and then you don't end up with like scenarios where trending topics of people who probably homeschooled and they're like doing horrible things to their kids, or like hyper focusing what they think on their kids as opposed to
Yeah.
what the kid actually wants to do.
Yeah, but I mean,
Because you could be like, you're into space, but maybe your kid freaking hates space, and now they're like, you're just cramming that in their brain. You're getting a college education before you're 18. Now they're just getting more overloaded, and you're just like doing the opposite effect, right?
So I didn't ask you,
I mean,
Jamie,
you
but
probably would
which
do that
side
as a
are you
parent
on?
with other things anyways when they come home from school if you're that way.
Yeah.
Not homeschool's not doing that. You're just that parent.
Are you more of a deschooling or more of a school at home type of homeschool?
I don't know. Never put much thought into it because I've never really done it. I would see that some of my kids that struggle would benefit from a deschooling and learning without realizing that they're learning. I have some kids that, like, the minute you have a paper out and you have all these words on it and all these questions, it's like,
You may as well have just been speaking Chinese the whole time.
it's like,
and then we have other kids you can be speaking
mental
Chinese
block.
to, and they get it.
Exactly. But like a mental
Actually, no
block.
Chinese.
But there's a mental block that happens where that child would benefit much more from that material being taught to them differently without them realizing I have to sit down and do this worksheet. And at school, the worksheets pile on and that information is never getting through at all.
Yeah.
So I would say, if I had to choose, I do it this way, deschooling, they're at least going to learn that way because I'm sitting at public school getting these worksheets just piled here. It's never going to get through. So
I 100% think that that's the case, especially some of our kids. So one of our kids in particular, like, just doesn't learn that way, so it doesn't work. So, yeah, it's complicated. If you homeschool, let us know in the comments. If
Yeah.
you are anti-homeschool, let us know in the
Yeah,
comments.
we want to know.
This sounds like a topic we can keep going on too, because there's a lot of
Oh
things.
my gosh, you
to,
can dig into every little aspect of this.
like
There
the
is a
next
lot
time
to
we'll
go
talk about
into
the chips
making
in the
a decision.
brain, and then the next time we'll talk about
Really?
AI.
I think
and
chips
then-
in your brain is probably the right answer, though.
It's never.
I would 100% download all the information in my brain about stuff that I cared about, which would be ridiculously dumb
Golf.
stuff. Like golf, random topics that I learned about on TikTok that day.
Exactly. Nothing of use.
Either my brain would just explode with dumb information.
And that's why I don't know if we're going to ever homeschool our kids. Just joking.
Whoa!